And just like that, we are back with chapter 50 of the universe according to Mugsy. I am Mugsy the creator, and today I am checking in on you. Friday, November 8th, 2024, where we just have a couple minutes to discuss current events, culture, and consciousness. Definitely not going to be in that order today, but we are checking in from this studio, which I have to get out of in a little while because they are going to be using it to shoot some hostage tapes. And I don't know what they're going to do with this freezer. I digress. Oh, finally, guys. Finally, I can sit here in this chair on this podcast and say successfully that I have altered the course of events in reality. Using nothing but my own mind, my own observation, and my own knowledge of the way that the universe works. Now, I didn't just want to do this for me. It's very important. When I set out to do this, what my intentions were like just so crazy that I felt like I wanted to be the type of person that could help anyone. Not just men, not just women, not old people or kids, but universal. Find something that could absolutely help every single person that I came across. And I am here, chapter 50, coming to you with Donald Trump as the president-elect of the United States to say that for everyone in this country, I don't care who you voted for. I don't care if you voted for Kamala. I don't care if you were like me and your vote was to exercise your vote for not voting. This is for you too. Now, yesterday, I could feel a sensation coming on my body personally. And I knew that other people had felt this sensation before. It's uncomfortable to say the least. And immediately you start thinking about ramifications because they are huge. They could have astronomical ramifications for your personal life, depending on what you have to do as this sensation is coming about over the next day, two, could be multiple days, because the sensation that I am talking about is an itchy asshole. That could ruin your entire social calendar, depending on when the symptoms onset. And what I am here to tell you, for all the people out there in the world, is I have discovered the cure to itchy asshole syndrome. It is none other than castor oil. What? What? Never would have thought of it. I know you guys are probably trying Preparation H. You're probably trying a triple antibiotic, maybe a fucking funky, nice moisturizer out of your wife, girlfriend, mother's bathroom cabinet. Maybe you're trying Johnson & Johnson's. All good thoughts. But I have your winner. It is castor oil. I doubt it even needs to be organic. It's going on your butthole. But I did use organic, cold pressed castor oil, and let me tell you almost immediately, as if I were doing an illicit substance and I was looking for a certain effect by putting those drugs in my butthole, just like you would feel those drugs on setting, so too did I feel that relief. Oh, that sweet, cool relief now. Castor oil. I've had a lot of people say to me, castor oil, that sounds like the oil that you put in your car. Yes. Yes, it does. Why did they name the commercial lubricant after the castor seed, which is the castor oil that I am talking about? It is because the castor seed has such profound and widely recognized lubrication and deep penetration abilities that are unlike the properties of other lubricants. And the people at the chemical oil company that were coming up for names for oil to put in cars, I don't know, what's the thing that lubricates stuff the most? Maybe that castor seed. Let's name our car oil after that, because everybody already knows that the castor seed is the top brand lubricant. But the problem is now I live in a world where the people have all become stupid. They forgot all the information that people took for granted for hundreds, if not thousands of years, that here is this seed. And if you want your skin to be moist, especially tender areas like your asshole, you can put this seed pressed down into an oil right on whatever it is you need to be lubricated, and almost immediately you will start to feel the fucking relief. So I think I can just retire from podcasting. It honestly feels like I have now hit my peak. I have done what, I don't know, maybe other podcasters or other human beings, are there saints that have helped everyone in the entire world at one moment? Because curing the world of the itchy asshole seems like one of the highest achievements. I need some recognition. Andre, another cup of tea. Thank you. What has been going on in your life, guys? I don't know. Does that count as the current events section of this podcast? Or did you guys really tune in to this to hear me discuss the ramifications of the election results? Because when I last left you, I told you I was prepared to tune in or check in live. Thank you, Andre, for this. This is great. Tune in, do lives when I saw that there was stories that were not being covered, or where I thought that there was actually some potential for violent uprisings, to let people know. But, I think Joe, my buddy Joe, and Dave summed it up best when they said, I guess voting works. When you absolutely what's the best way to describe this. When people feel that there is no alternative to change their lives except for voting, it turns out that will be very effective, because when there are enough motivated individuals who are just tired of the status quo, they will unite in some way, shape, or fashion to make their voice heard. So, for those of you that were pulling for Donald Trump in this election, congratulations. It seems like there was so much awareness on all of the ways that the previous election had been fucked with. And it was called, and the public was educated enough. There were enough independent journalists who were able to articulate and properly diagnose the issues, that had gone on from 2020 up until this last election in November, just a week ago, to inform the public enough that people were keeping eyes out on all the ways that the election was fucked with before. And for one side or the other to now think that this changes anything is asinine. In no statistical model does voting for a politician ever lead to change, especially the change that they said they were going to implement. Now, I do think that there is cause for pause and for the United States to really celebrate the fact that, if nothing else, the people came together and said, we are tired of whatever this is. Whatever this is, we want to change. Kamala Harris does not seem to represent that, as she occupies a position in the current administration, has publicly stated that she will do nothing different, and is running on a platform of joy, is not what the American people are looking for at this current moment in time. For whatever reason, the American people are looking for something different. And they spoke loud and clear. That doesn't mean that we're going to see any changes come down, no matter how good of a game Donald Trump talks. Now, just like the last time we did this 4 years ago, I hope that whoever occupies that position for as long as that is a position we all respect, I hope does the best for the American people. Because when I have a boot on my neck, as I have had for much of my life, as someone of the slave class in the United States of America, I don't much care whether it is the left boot or the right boot that is on my neck. So, I don't know. Perhaps I share the optimism because it reflects an awakened and invigorized American public who seems to at least be attempting to educate themselves. Of that and for that, I am optimistic. But politicians solving my problems not so optimistic about that. Perhaps as a society, we should examine some of the successful strategies that Donald Trump implemented in his third successful presidential election. I am sort of kidding. But really, the difference is the way that information travels has now changed. There used to be very influential people that were able to swing the vote. And that worked for a segment of time. And then we had a 10 or 15, maybe 20-year technological regime that was able to subtly and subconsciously affect your ephemeral experiences, which my friend Robert Epstein is capturing the data of. And it seems like the American public was unaware that that was going on for a long time. But this election seems to have been the American public's awakening to that issue of the technocracy that has really existed in the United States for the last decade or two. Because information now travels on independent platforms. If not fully independent platforms, then there is enough of a groundswell on good ideas and true information that eventually it will get picked up and raised to this level of where this new emergence in the vacuum that the mainstream media bubble popping kind of leaves, that the information is getting out there and it's getting picked up. And part of that has to do with people like Tucker Carlson being removed from the actual, what we used to call mainstream and legacy media, forced to find independent avenues to reach a rabid fan base that very much cares about their opinion. Joe Rogan interviewing Donald Trump, although it seemed to be in the final 2 minutes of the game, also reflects his individual feelings on the importance of having an independent conversation as much as the Joe Rogan Experience can be an independent discussion between two people. And that is so positive to see, especially while the other side seemingly spent a lot of the last week debating a joke that a stand-up comedian said on a stage at a Trump rally and pointing the finger at the same Joe Rogan for not kowtowing to the current administration and traveling to do a Kamala Harris interview. It's just weird. But I didn't feel the need to tune in because I think the last 49 chapters of our discussion, called everything exactly like it was. We would need a groundswell, sweeping, overflow Donald Trump win for the deep state to not try any of its vote stealing tactics, at least in the same way that they did in the last however many elections. I think that most people are breathing a sigh of relief because they think that means that something is over. That's why I'm back. That's why we're having this discussion, because the deep state wouldn't be the deep state if they lost, right? They always win. Unless you're telling me that we have entered a new era of Earth and we've transcended the previous dimensions, limitations on our growth, and we are about to come up with a whole new structure for society and how it's organized. Like, if that's where we're at, that's great. I can't wait to hear Donald Trump's plans on how we get there. But my guess is that's probably not where we're at least in this moment, right? We are getting there. But we're still going to have to end a lot of the current patterns that we exist in. And that's really why I find myself in terrorist music video shooting locations talking to myself, because it's so hard to get people to grasp that in real time. And I wanted, because there's only so much we can talk about. We're just going to be speculating. But with Donald Trump's victory, he ran on a platform of deportation. So now we would expect to see a lot of rounding up and shipping off of the people who entered this country illegally, and their first act in the United States was a criminal act. And there will be a lot of judgment on whether that's a positive or a negative thing. I don't know. And we're already seeing, like in my home state of Massachusetts, the governor of Massachusetts saying that she will do everything within her legal power to stand in the way of the president deporting illegal criminal human beings in this country, which is an issue that is going to be resolved in some way, shape, or form. I tend to believe that it's going to be hard to trust anybody whose first act in this country was a crime, right? So I don't have any problem with shipping those people back, especially when it seems like their entry into this country was under false pretenses. And I wonder if this period now, before the transition of power in January, is going to be where the other half of the deep state have actually been spending their time fighting, because they too, like myself, Tucker Carlson, Glenn Greenwald, and a few, Dave Smith, Tim Pool, a few people really had their fingers on the pulse of this election. Wouldn't surprise me to see that this was all a part of some grander plan, and what we are going to see as the rebellion is just kicking off now. And perhaps these illegal aliens that their first act in this country was a crime are here for a different reason. And maybe we will start to see that in the coming weeks. It was also just so fascinating to see all the business leaders really changing their tone. Right after that 2-minute warning, Jeff Bezos and the Washington Post refusing to endorse a candidate. And at the Saturday Night Live, this is election interference. I don't know how they came out like in August and they said, obviously we can't have any of the candidates on. That would be election interference. And then they did it. They did just that as if they were begging for the whole world to do something about it. And that is a perfect transition into this fucking syndrome that I have, which is, I don't know if it's Munchausen syndrome, whatever that, no, it's the one where you fall in love with your captors. I got a bit of that shit. Because I just want to save everyone. And there was one specific company that we've talked at length about, and I wouldn't even bring it up if I didn't think it would serve the highest good in the discussion that we're about to have. But, just because the first people, that's not true. I've been brainwashed so many times that I'm so grateful for being brainwashed because it's learned me how to take control of my life and just be thankful for it so that we can hurry along with this process of learning the lessons that I need to learn before I just can't speak English today. Before I go and become brainwashed again and need to learn another lesson, because that is what life is. That is what this existence is. It's all to teach ourselves lessons that we need to learn for some higher potential or greater good, or don't. And that is a lesson that you came to planet Earth to learn. I don't know why you'd want to fucking teach yourself that lesson, but hey, beggars can't be choosers. So this Saturday Night Live thing really gets me because I spent so much time formulating that new concept of Saturday Night Live because there was truly someone that was in a position, a unique position to repurpose the format of that show and do so on an independent platform. And that's why I'm even repping my Barstool gear today. Because political Dave Portnoy, I hate talking about you. I can't stand you, buddy. Political Dave, and at the same time, I fucking love you, dude. And it's like, when are you gonna wake up? We've all been waiting. But I bring up Dave Portnoy because on his podcast, BFFs with Josh Richard and Brianna Chicken Fry, they had been discussing some dating drama, some celebrity gossip. And she broke up with, there was a breakup between Bryan, country singer, who I listened to a bit on Joe Rogan Experience, and Brianna Chicken Fry, who is some 20-something Barstool Sports social media influencer. And I'm still not used to these headphones. It seemed to be a really fucking weird breakup for a lot of reasons, but the reason that I tuned in to hear a little bit more about it was because she was offered $12 million in an NDA to not discuss any of their relationships. Now, this is interesting, right? A little bit of insight into a world that I don't have access to every day. Now, of course, if you want to understand reality, you need to figure out unknowns. And that is extremely difficult because I do not know what it's like to be a rich country music singer. But if you want to understand what reality's actually like, you need to put yourself in the shoes of a multi-millionaire 20-something country singer who has access to all of the money, power, and resources that somebody like that would have access to. And then you need to extrapolate. What does every day look like for someone like that? How much time are they spending traveling? Okay, so they're traveling, maybe they're working while they're traveling, but really they only have X amount of time in a day to focus on this, that, or the other thing. And very quickly, you can begin to understand how much about the rest of the world that you know about that this person doesn't know. And for someone to be offering you $12 million, that means they have to have made 24, right? They need to have cleared $24 million a year in order to pay you that 12. Now, yeah, of course, that's assuming that it's all upfront in one annual year. And don't get bogged down in the details, fuckface, all right? I do this professionally, so fuck off. And so for this, should I even talk about, I don't, their breakup. Okay, so a social media influence got broken up with in a very, I would say, horrible, disgraceful, dismissive way, just coming from a masculine man perspective. It's indicative of a weak individual. This has nothing to do with gender, but probably also someone who is being manipulated and controlled. So, knowing that, I also want to be charitable to him, so it's quite possible I only listened to her side of the story, and on the most recent BFFS podcast, you don't have to take my word for it. What went on. Feel free to investigate this yourself. But it seemed like this was not the first time that he had offered this type of contract and proposition to a female. Now that's crazy too. So now let's say it was all 1 year, 12 million for this one girl. Had another girl before, let's say, that's fucking half that, 6 million. Maybe there was a one before that. It seemed like there's a pattern here. So that's 3 million. 12, 9, 21, $24 million he would be paying to girlfriends in hush money so that he would continue to propel this career. Now this means he would need to make $48 million a year, pre-tax-ish, right? Because that's just a general rule. Whitney Cummings turned me on to that, another one of my friends. And that is very insightful because now, how much are you bringing in profit, right? Because these tours, all they talk about is top-line revenue. But it costs a lot of money to set up these arenas, rent out these arenas, insure these arenas. And my guess is what we are dealing with, as we are always dealing with, is some sort of P. Diddy fucking ring of Epstein manipulation and power, pressure going on. And this little dickhead is allowed to go out there and fucking ruin girls' lives because he serves this bigger agenda. I don't know whose boss is. That's the part of this whole story where you guys should really be fucking waking up. Because, yes, if it's too good to be true, it's too fucking good to be true. It always is. Do you want to know where a good man is? He's at his fucking parents' house, living with them and trying his best to take care of them in this incredibly difficult time in American history. That is where the good men are. They are not standing on fucking stages talking about driving in trucks. They are walking the walk, and they're actually trying to fucking help people in this world. Anybody. It could be one person, and it could be themselves that they're trying to help. And that is the person you should be focusing your time and energy on, because surprise, surprise, motherfucker, the guy that's not grateful for any of the things that he has, guess what? He takes you for granted too. And I'm being harsh right now because I'm about to discuss the other half of this. Okay? So I'm just so tired of people that don't. What's the best way to articulate this? They never accept any of the blame themselves. They never accept the blame for every action they contributed in that led them to the reality or the current events that they are seeing play out before them. Because eventually, if you don't pay attention to them, your life is going to spiral out of control. And you are going to wind up in a manifestation of an experience that is life altering. And that experience is called the dark night of the eternal soul. Now, I don't usually bring up this experience because it is a very powerful thing that your consciousness has the ability to manifest into existence in your life. And what it feels like is such an oppressive, dark energy and time. Like, you cannot do anything. There is no longer a path forward. And inexplicably, it comes at a time where there is a crossroads, and you may not recognize the crossroads in real time. And the only way through is to transcend the experience and begin to become a higher version of yourself. And I believe for Miss Chicken Fry, this experience and that time where she had to decide $12 million in cash an NDA, not being able to speak with the freedom that you should be able to speak with, was not worth your dignity. And that's all it came down to. Miss Chicken Fry considered herself more valuable than $12 million and an NDA. So in doing what she did, choosing not to accept the money, she killed the woman that existed for the past year. That woman no longer exists. The patterns that she fell into, serving him on his tour and taking a back seat to her own personal life. That person died when Bryan offered her a contract and she said no. And she began a new life. And that is why the experience of the eternal the dark night of the eternal soul is such a transformative experience, because there is no going back. But what it makes you realize is it's still the same person as before. But somehow, when you have gratitude for the experience, it unlocks this wisdom which you can climb to become a higher version of yourself. Now, I think that was certainly an abbreviated, very quick journey into that experience. And it may not have been her first venture into the darkness that exists within herself, but only through that pain can you activate the light within yourself that it alchemizes that pain into a purpose that will guide you into this new reality that you have just stepped into already, because you've already made the decision. It's so exciting. It's so exciting to observe that out in the world and kind of see there's someone to keep an eye on. There is someone I would feel comfortable having young women in my life be influenced by. Because here is someone who values themselves a lot more than you get to see publicly every day. And the person that will arise, I look forward to meeting. And all of it is really tied together in like one moment, this now. This intuition that I'm sure Miss Chicken Fry will begin to cultivate, which she will then recognize was always there. She just wasn't paying attention to that frequency. And there is nothing that you can do to get someone to pay attention to that frequency. Because I've tried so many times. I've tried so many times to get Dave Portnoy to realize how manipulated he is being, down to the actual rotation of these manipulative events in his everyday life. He thinks that these fucking random phone calls just fall out of the fucking sky. Like, oh, all of a sudden now, Mr. Beast wants to go live with fucking Jerry and talk about this fucking golf thing that you had going on right in the middle of an election. That's exactly when they're going to call you from Fox News. You've never done that show, but we're going to talk to you on a landline. You are such a numbnuts, and you deserve everything that comes to you. Every single thing you get, you deserve, and you should go back into my catalog and go listen for the offer that I offered to you, because I told you there was no expiration date on it, and god damn, this is one of those moments where I'm thankful that I'm so fucking stupid, right? Oh my God, I'm not spelling this shit out for you anymore, numbnuts. Political Dave Portnoy. You have to understand that when you choose to not see through a political lens, first what you do is you take that political lens and you put it so close to your fucking eyeballs that you can't think straight. Now, every single one of these stories that you cover or don't cover has to be looked at through this fucking political lens so that you can impress these advertisers that don't give a fuck about you anyways. You know how much they think your fucking company is worth, Dave? $1 fucking dollar. Get that through your thick head, because I ain't shit. And neither are you, fuckface. But you're never gonna learn that. Not until you spend some time with somebody who truly understands reality, man. Because just like having to extrapolate everything Zach Bryan knows based on how much time he's put in to certain endeavors, I have done the same with many people. Not only do I know what you know, I know what you don't know. And it gives me the freedom to walk around this universe and manipulate whoever I want, whenever I want. That's why I don't do it. But yeah, oh my God. There was so much. There was like 27 things. I mean, fucking... Is anybody going to correlate the fact that the Chicago office at Barstool now has unlimited catered meals and Big Cat's kidney stone? Because these are the outcomes that stoolies can expect if they continue to live in the patterns that their favorite influencers are existing in. And if you can't influence the influencers, you got to do your own thing, man. So I think that was plenty of current events, culture, and consciousness. Miss Chicken Fry, I have high hopes for you. Political Dave Portnoy, Hey, you got to go back. I spent enough time with you guys. To the American public, this moment of populism, let it be a moment to reflect on the fact that the American people are united. And because of that, there will be people coming to divide you in every way, shape, and form. In the coming weeks and months, no one goes quietly into the night. The deep state will not either. So take a moment to pause. Enjoy the feeling of the energy in the room changing, because it has. And recognize that one battle does not win a war. No politician will ever solve your problems. Those issues are the current events that are created by our culture. And our culture is a reflection of what we individually accept inside of our own consciousness and the patterns that we display out in the world, so that we quietly give everyone else the permission to take back their own consciousness. Because that's all there is. I love you. Guys, take back your consciousness. Hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, YouTube, Rumble. I am going to continue to do these as I see fit until there is an audience asking for more. And maybe eventually we'll get out of this place and we'll upgrade you. But until there's an audience for this stuff, I guess this is just for posterity. I love you guys. Take back your consciousness. I'm out.